and it's not reasonable, maybe we can deal with it at a retreat or something where we've talked about it and designate the areas we want to see developed. Then we can push this and we can say OCP, ALC, this is what we want to see happen. And otherwise, we keep seeing these applications that aren't supported within our own plan, and we say, well, that's the plan, but we don't think it's the right plan. And then they come to us and say, well, why do you guys have the plan then? Well, fix your plan. So if we change our OCP to include these, then it takes all the pressure off staff to keep trying to push these boundaries when our own plan says we shouldn't do it. So if we want to do this, let's change our plans. Let's sit down, spend a couple hours fixing it. Because that's all it takes, right?
Not quite that simple. I guess the other part of it too is as part of an OCP review to consider any possible expansions of the urban containment boundary for residential use. That should be across the city review would provide that. There may be other areas that are good or bad in which that consideration could occur. I guess the other point would be the Land Commission still needs to approve the OCP. So it's not just a matter of council saying we'll change the OCP and this now becomes residential. The Land Commission, because it is ALR land, has to agree to that as well. But the OCP review process might be that process that gets all these areas on the table.
Councillor Candle.
The big point is dollars, because I think the last OCP review was somewhere around $100,000. So it's not just a matter of it's we need budget if that is one of our priorities to do a review, and if it's that much in 92 or 93, whenever it was done, 2002 or 2004, it's going to be more money now. So. But we could have a simplistic discussion on this at a retreat and see where our philosophy is at. And staff, they are following policy directions, so I can't fault them on what they do because our jobs are totally different, which everybody on council knows.
Yeah, and I've heard 200,000 for a new OCP review, but this particular issue keeps coming up again and again, and it seems to me maybe we could have a focused discussion just on this particular issue and amend the OCP. But like you said, that may be a subject for retreat. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Worship. Could we just look at Appendix 7 again? First of all, I'm not in favor of developing any prime agricultural land, and I think probably council feels as well. But I think Appendix 7 that Councillor Flint's pointed out may be a starting point for discussion. The south section of this property, the letter enclosed from the ALC says that they are non-supportive of development there. So our thoughts on whether they should develop or not are really mute. They aren't important. But I think that this appendix may be a starting point for discussion with the ALC. And so I would like to have staff go ahead and set an appointment for us to meet with them. And I don't think January is too far away. Nothing's going to happen there before this time. Because I think for us it might be a bit of an education. We understand a little bit more about soils and which ones are good agricultural land and which aren't. Because when you look at Appendix 7, a large part of that L piece around Hillcrest is not in the red section, and I think we've all voiced in this council our opinion that would make good developable land. And about half of this piece we're talking about now is also not in the red section. So there may be room for making an objective sort of a decision on this, and perhaps if the ALC is a part of that discussion, then we'll be able to move forward. Right now I don't think we're moving forward. I would say we put this application aside for now until, and once we meet with them, a much more I think objective sort of piece of information to work with.
That's the Administrator. We did request a meeting with the ALC concerning the other two properties, correct?
Yes, we did.
Is that on any schedule or?
Your Worship, as Corey indicated, we did have a date, but as as a result of the retreat being canceled, that was canceled.
I see.
So at this time, we don't have a date.
Councillor Cannon.
I just wanted to add, like, with the property in the yellow, the agricultural land, essentially you could have like a farm come and set up a feed lot, like an agricultural operation. And then we would have the outcry of the people surrounding that area. And is that correct, that someone could just come into those properties and set up that type of operation?
Yeah, agriculture is a permitted use, and under land in the ALR, there's a right to farm, which provides some protection for existing.
I mean, even with the farm, like Nate was there, and their burners and the people that would, and that was a different issue. And I know the poultry farm that's set up at the end of North Broadview, I mean, there was lots of people that came out on that one. I mean, if we had a dairy farm or on these properties, it would be a huge issue. This place would be full if someone wanted to have an operation like that. And really, is it the place for an operation like that? I wouldn't think it is. So, I don't know, just something to think about. I think we really need to look at this area.
Councillor Itzan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the matter definitely seems to be a question of how we can mold development in that area. I think the tough part will be that even if we have a meeting with the ALC about lands in this area, the folks to the south towards 20th may have to realize that they have very little ability to persuade the ALC, and probably only marginally more to persuade council with regards to the portion that's almost all in red. As for the other area, certainly wrapping around the school might provide a buffer, but certainly per the LC's affect agricultural potential land that you could see a element in the portion of that area right to it, and might be appropriately placed there, even if it potentially conflicts with neighboring residential. So certainly what we can do to mold it in a way that both meets the short-term and long-term needs of the community and the sort of long-term agricultural needs of the province is our challenge. And if it's an OCP review that will be required, I believe we're going to have that discussion sooner rather than later as to how much is in reserve for it, how much we're willing to put aside in any given tax year, and when we're willing to commit the community to following through on that process. So, it's come up in a number of capacities before, but I believe if we're going to continue saying we need an OCP review, we've got to, so to speak, get off the pot and go for it.
Thank you, Your Worship. I understand, I didn't attend the meeting, but I understand the Hillcrest meeting with this, with CASA, this issue came up in a fair bit of detail. And so I think there's a way that we can deal with this community way, deal with the OCP in a piece, but I'm not sure if that's the answer. I'm going to motion and support staff because I agree with Councillor Lyson's comments that kind of bangs the wall trying to approve this and then move it forward when, one, staff isn't supportive, and two, we already know the AL's position on it. Although I am going to state that I would want us to figure out how we can deal with this area. I know we were maybe a little bit hard on Corey's infill study because we didn't think economics were looked at, and I think the market is telling us that economically this is an area that can be affordable to develop, will be desirable area for growth. There's parks, there's all of those things. So I think we need to deal with this area sooner rather than later. I don't need to do a whole OCP review to deal with this. And I think that the market is speaking. There's obviously demand for lots in this area. And the services are all there. The school is there. The parks are in the area. And I think we should figure out how we can deal with this sooner rather than later, but I'll vote to defeat the motion and support staff at this time.
Councillor Harrison.
Your Worship, could I move to delay this until after we meet with the LC and ask staff